To make you bigger.
All righty, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Soul Changes Lives webinar. My name is Debbie Perez Cockburn. I'm your host every week. It's my pleasure to be with you. We love doing these discussions weekly. We usually have 3 sections. Our first section is the Soul Changes Lives testimonial, where someone will share their personal story or someone close to them where soul has made an impact on their life. And we know that when we're dealing with adaptogenic herbs, this change can be physical, emotional, spiritual changes, because that's how adaptogens work. Our second section is always presented by one of the Soul founders. He is also the president of Soul Naturals, and he is my dearest, closest brother that I have, and that is Mr. Greg Halliday. And I've asked him to speak on a special subject this week. And then our third section will be our regular health tip. And guess what? Yours truly will be telling you how to use Soul products with children from the ages of 6 months and up. Okay, so to get our class started today, our testimonial comes to us from Daytona, Florida. It is one of our friends from another lifetime. She's looking all gorgeous. Her name is Sybil Vasquez. Sybil, why don't you go ahead and explain, because Sybil has had quite the journey. It's been almost a year, right, Sybil, since you started using Soul. I think you became
May.
with Soul in May.
It was on my birthday when I started.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you this last year.
I will. First, I have to tell you that 10 years ago in January, I had a car accident. And after losing a lot of things already in life, I lost my health, which was pretty rough for an herbalist. And I was in such a financial shape, I didn't have the means to do the things I knew that would help me. And a couple of years ago, my former husband passed away, and I've used the money to invest in my health that I got from widow's benefits and life insurance. And I'm just so grateful. And this time last year, I was really working hard to get back into business, to provide for myself the means to keep getting well. And I felt God saying, stop it, just rest and take care of yourself. So I told my people that I was training and mentoring, I need to take a break. God wants me to rest. And then that day I got a request to read someone's Zyto scans, a whole family of 5 that was really sick. And I probably would have done it because I've been such a people pleaser, and I'm trying to learn to not be a people pleaser and to follow what God shows me. But God helped me out by letting my computer break. So I didn't get to follow through, and they just had to, be there with the things I'd already given them. And so I was waiting around, and I saw Debbie post, I'm going to be in Florida. And I had this urgency to go see her that I can only explain. It has to be God. It was a God moment, and it made no sense. It's really hard for me to pack my car with all that pain. And I usually had a power chair until last May. I used my power chair to go to the pool, do my exercises. It was the only thing that didn't hurt. Everything else I did hurt. And I spent the last 8 of the 10 years I was injured just being still so it wouldn't hurt. And I've tried a lot of different things and my pain did improve. But when I switched to Soul, I felt like I had to see Deborah. We weren't even close friends. We were acquaintances. And she'd been one of my mentors previously teaching me. And I took what she and Greg and other trainers told me seriously. And on my healing journey, it was chiropractic, it was massage, it was herbs, it was everything. And when she first invited me to join Soul, I was like, oh, well, I'm already happy where I'm at, but I'll try a digestive aid because I had become disenchanted with some changes. And before you knew it, I was on my way driving to the event, and I missed my birthday because it was so hard to pack my car. I earned a trip to Las Vegas a few years ago, and I missed the plane because I couldn't decide what to put in my suitcase. So I have head trauma and physical injuries that now I believe were probably neurological, and it takes a little longer to heal those things. But during this year, my inflammation has decreased. I sleep better. My hormones are more balanced. my story was a lot like Donna's, except that my hormone imbalances started as a teenager, right when I came into puberty. And it was, my mom told me if I had a good attitude, everything would be fine. And it was not. It was definitely not fine. And it got worse with each of my kids. The baby blues were terrible. And I was so ashamed. And I went to my pastor for counseling, and he was like, oh, this is more than spiritual or emotional. You have too many symptoms. So he a long time ago, he sent me to a biochemist that helped me a little bit, but didn't teach me. And then I didn't stick with it. So, years later, I learned, and the stuff Debbie and Greg taught me helped me to make good choices. But last year, it was just so amazing, the difference in the healing of my body. This time last year, I used a power chair to come down to the office where I'm using their Wi-Fi right now. And now I walk. In fact, I walk everywhere so much that my batteries died. I have to get new batteries because you can't just leave a power chair sitting around. And I'm just so grateful because I went from a friend invited me to a birthday party in the summer, and I used to be a ballroom dancer, and I just really wanted to dance. And just putting my shoes on hurt so bad I couldn't even do one dance in the summer. And I just now danced in the new year with some seniors at a ballroom dance, and I just danced at my granddaughter's wedding. So, and I'm going back to work. I've spent the last 6 months, I rented a small office in a health food market cafe, and she's been feeding me because I still need to be taken care of. But so I eat organic and juice and all that, but she made a little office for me to do consultations. And I know with this kind of thing, you don't really need an office, but it's kind of like my dream that I've had for a really long time. That's just it. I've been spending the last 6 months just practicing going to work and coming home and going to treatments and taking my herbs and making sure I drink water and take a nap and do all the basics. And I have my life back.
That's awesome, Sybil. That is a beautiful, beautiful story. We so appreciate hearing that. I know that you're a woman of faith. I know that you were guided to there that day, and the whole year that I've seen your progress, physical, spiritual, and emotional, has been magnificent. Sybil came into the room.
This shirt was too big at convention.
It was too tight. Her shirt was too tight.
It was way too tight. It was my favorite one. Now it fits.
So you got the added benefit of even losing a little bit of weight, as well as losing that emotional baggage that you'd been carrying from the trauma and accident.
And that's what I have wanted the most, is I've been wanting to get training to help people with emotional issues. And when on the way to see you, I saw the video by Dr. Caldwell, and it was about listening and not fixing people, but validating them. And I realized I'd been a fixer. So I'm working on validating. And then I got to talk to her there, and she gave me some advice, and just the whole heart of soul, that it's really caring about people. And we don't have to be ashamed if we've gone through traumas and we have deep emotional issues, that y'all are doing something to help us get well. And I just, it's exactly what I've been longing for.
Thank you, Sybil. That's awesome.
Answered a prayer.
Thank you. All right. Well, I just love that story, and we're grateful to have Sybil have shared that today. I'm sure it will help many people along the way. This week, I've asked my friend Greg, who is, as I said, the president of Soul Naturals. He usually does a product discussion, and it's usually really, really great. And this week, I hope you enjoy this discussion, because it's a question that's come up in a lot of different talks and a lot of different forums. On Facebook, I get the question all the time: what does Soul use to sweeten the beverages? Because some people say they're just so sweet. How can they be good for you? Soul must sneak in some sugar. And I assure you that Soul does not sneak in any sugar. And so to address this issue, I've asked Greg to talk to us about the sweeteners that Soul uses. I know we use erythritol and a couple of others. Why don't you tell us about that, Greg? And thank you.
You bet, Debbie. And thanks, Sybil, for your story too. What a great example. You're a great example, inspiring, just looking at it, moving forward, making steps, taking care of yourself. Boy, we all need to be reminded of that all the time. Hopefully we remind each other. We don't always take care of ourselves, do we? But it's the secret. That's how we help others. So anyway, we're not perfect, but we don't have to be. We can bounce back. So yeah, I do like to talk about sweeteners because, first of all, why do we even use them? Well, because we have quite a few drinks. If it were capsules, we wouldn't. But we have quite a few drinks, and we make our drinks therapeutic. We do not make them as tasty beverages like it's about the taste experience. We make them about health, both for mind and body, for physical needs and for emotional requirements, nutritionally. That's how we build them. And so when we do that, if you do that seriously, you're going to have a lot of herbs in there that can be quite powerful tasting. And we recognize that people won't do that once or twice a day, which is often the requirement, especially when we're trying to rebalance ourselves. It might be several times a day. And then when we're maintaining, it might be once a day, or it might be every other day. But regularly over time, over weeks and months and years and decades, for that to happen, we do recognize it needs to be palatable for people. And there are a lot of people who just won't give it a go if it tastes too horrible. There's just a large swath of society. And if we can reach them, if we can help them in some way, that's why we use the sweeteners. So those are our reasons for even using them at all. Second of all, I thought I'd share with you our process. We do not add anything to any formula in terms of sweeteners until we've made it and tasted it and used it, because so many things are better than you think, just the way they are, and they don't need much. And that's why we don't follow anybody else's. Oh, you can go to industry shows and they can talk about how much of a sweetener you should use and how much is tolerated before this happens. Like take sugar alcohols, sorbitol, maltitol, xylitol, erythritol. Now we use erythritol. That's the only one we use of those. Sugar alcohols can cause some people digestive distress. So, you can find studies saying this is about how much you should use. We don't use any of that as our guidepost. We really look at the formulas themselves first. We look at all the components, and very often some key components for nutrition bring a natural sweetness of fructose. Even sugar alcohols, as I just mentioned, are present in many fruits, by the way. You can find them in other places too, certain barks of certain trees. Honestly, they're all over. It's just where suppliers can consistently source them and provide them that determines where you get them. But sugar alcohols are something natural in nature. And some of them, like xylitol, for instance, is quite a bit more, you could say in a lot of ways, quite a bit more healthy than sugar, because it has maybe 1/4. I'm trying to think of the exact ratio, somewhere in the vicinity of 1/4 the carbohydrates of sugar. Well, erythritol, which we use here, is another 1/4 as much carbohydrates as xylitol. So you have sugar from cane sugar, and then you have this xylitol, and then erythritol is another degree, another equal degree. So what it does is it has almost no negative glycemic effect. On top of that, erythritol has next to none in terms of digestive sensitivity for people. You can find it here and there, but it's quite rare, whereas xylitol is a little more common. Now, I've worked with xylitol in the past, and one of the great things about xylitol, not something that Solle carries, is the dental story. It will kill certain bacteria in the mouth that cause caries, and actually other microbes. There's a health story. Erythritol, in a recent study, I was reading about this week, by the way, In a recent study, erythritol was shown to be the #1 sugar alcohol in terms of immune, what it does. So it's even better. Okay. It also is by far the lowest in terms of any kind of digestive irritation. And it even had a stronger dental story than any of the others. And that's why we settled on it. I was aware when we founded Solle 10 years ago, I was aware of xylitol because I'd worked with it in a past company. And there's a lot I like about it still. But erythritol, I like even better. And that's why we use erythritol. So now erythritol is not as sweet as xylitol either. So you have a little less sweetness, but you also have these other benefits that are just fantastic. There's a study I read in the same report I was reading last week on erythritol that heart health actually is improved with the use of erythritol as a sugar substitute. So not only was it benefiting your pancreas and the whole management of sugar in the body, but there were several indicators of healthier arteries, blood, and overall heart health with the regular use of moderate amounts of erythritol. So they're actually, like all of the sweeteners we have, and this is the point I wanted to make today, we actually don't use any if they don't also have some other additional therapeutic benefit. We don't use any of them simply as a sweetener. We need that in some of the formulas, but we have quite a selection. And can I just say, sweeteners are going to expand greatly in terms of natural good options because extraction processes are getting better. They're learning, the market is learning and suppliers are learning. You can't genetically modify it in any way. You can't use harsh chemicals in any way. In terms of the heat, it needs to be minimal in extracting it. And so as they get good at this, they're trying it on more fruits like monk fruit. As some of our products, we use monk fruit. Originally, monk fruit is included for its therapeutics. But as I said, we always taste our formulas before we add any sweetener and noticed that our monk fruit formula, of course, did not need anything else. And so there's a fruit in infatuate called lucuma, Lucuma. Looks like lucuma. I think they pronounce it lucuma in Peru. It'd be like a South American version of monk fruit, which is more Asian. Super sweet and loaded with different vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, like many fruits. So that lucuma helped our infatuate taste the way it is. So we do use several different sweet fruits from nature as a sweetener. So what's different about them? Well, the way they're extracted, you can extract any herb either as it is with zero change, or you can extract standardizing certain components. Like, for instance, our St. John's wort is standardized to a certain amount of hyperforin and what's the other one? Hyperferrin. And there's two different known beneficial compounds that are mood regulating. And because St. John's wort can be altered quite a bit, we choose a standardized version that keeps within a range so that we know it's not altered beyond that range. The same principle can apply to sweeteners. There's a certain range of sweetness we want. If you go too far, you're changing it too much when it's a natural sweetener, in our opinion. And that's why we use the erythritol that we use the lucuma that we use the monk fruit that we use, and stevia. I thought I'd maybe land on stevia last because stevia has unfairly received negative press. Thankfully, it's pretty old, that press. But it's funny, once something gets in the internet, isn't that amazing? People reread it and share it and print it, and it gets a whole new cycle, and even something based on a very faulty bit of reporting or faulty science. There was somewhere down the road where, somewhere in the past, I think we're aware of, Joanne's going to remember this, Lisa might, Gwen might, Debbie might, FDA said, no, stevia is not approved. And everybody took that as it's not safe. Wrong interpretation. That was not the statement. It just wasn't proven. And it's so hard to, I think, always choose the right words, right? And especially maybe if you don't care too much to, I'm not saying that, but now, of course, it has received what's called GRAS status, GRAS, generally regarded as safe, GRAS. So no problems with it now, though people still worry and wonder. There are sometimes, like all herbs, where they will substitute other similar plants and call them stevia. That is true. So you have to get the right genus and species. Secondly, I misspoke yesterday, Debbie. Something in my mind, we talked about this in Spanish. I knew this, it's very similar to, I keep calling stevia part of the mint family, and actually it is very similar, but it's actually a parallel family that sunflowers come from. Believe it or not, it looks like mint family, and I apologize, but it's sunflower, but the family, so many of the other herbs that we use, like basil, mint family. And I'm trying to think if the perilla is mint family. There's so many of them are this powerful family, of therapeutics. But the sunflower is also quite powerful in therapeutics. And stevia is in that. I can't remember this family. It's like chrysanthemum, it looks like chrysanthemum. You can look it up, okay? But also a very therapeutic family of plants is what I meant to say. But stevia, it does have, first of all, a number of different compounds that are sweet, not just one. So I wanted to point that out today. Stevia has a number, and they all taste a little different. And that's why sometimes people can get different stevias and they taste a little different. But one can be dominated by one of the components, and others dominated by the others. And so they can taste a little different, but stevia is still very much sweeter and very low in glycemic index, very healthy, continues to be a wonderful source. In recent years, there has been great improvement in the extraction of stevia in safe, good, responsible extraction, where they're not altering species, not playing with the plant makeup in any way. And so what you can see now is a smoother stevia that tastes better. And so you'll notice that come into some of our drinks. We've noticed it recently, as we've always used stevia. Some of those little semi-bitter notes that you get, you don't even get as much of them. So stevia, we are firmly committed to that one as well, honestly, because it has all sorts of health benefits. It's really good for you anyway, and it happens to be sweet. That does not make it unique. There are many fruits, baobab and lucuma, and the list is long. And as we get better at caring for plants and fruits and extracting things in a responsible way, you probably see more options of different natural sweeteners. We choose them based on the combining with the other ingredients, how that might affect the flavor, and also some of the health benefits of that particular sweet source. So that's how we do it. We're looking at the health benefits, matching those up with the formula, and we're also tasting it. And you have some herbs that give you like a strong taste right at the beginning and they taper off. Others, very mild taste at first and then build. And so sweeteners are the same thing. Herbs that have lots of these wonderful natural sweeteners in them, they can be received in our palate differently. And so combining, we're trying to make the formula as consistent as possible. So Sol Royal, that's the most recent drink. It does have some stevia. And it is the newer, what we're seeing and what I would call this even more improved stevia extract. It's still pure natural extract of stevia. And we really quite like its flavor. And so that's why we used it in Sol Royal. Now, I think I forgot one. Debbie's probably thinking of it. Honey.
Yes.
That's the other one I forgot. We use some honey powder.
Honey
Very
powder.
stable. It is very stable. People talk about, okay, but honey does have carbs, not in the amounts nothing to worry about in the amounts we're using. Such small amounts. You can see our overall calories because we put them on the drinks, incredibly low. So that tells you right there how small the amount of honey is. We are very big fans of honey. One of several wonderful things made by bees that are highly densely nutritious for us and fill a lot of gaps in our nutrition. So both mood gaps and also physical. So We are fans. Royal, we branched out a little more and got the royal jelly, which to me is another step. It's actually several steps more superfood than honey, in my opinion. Royal jelly is pretty incredible. So we definitely use some of those as well. We realize some people who are strictly vegan might go, hey, I want it strictly vegan. But again, there are no animal parts. Unlike other animal-derived foods that actually are parts of animals, there are no parts of bees. It's actually something manufactured by bees out of plant material. And so we're very comfortable with that. We realize it's not, we do have some difference of opinion, right? With some in that, but we're very, very comfortable in how beneficial it is. And those benefits, in our opinion, they really vastly outweigh some of the reservations that you could have with a bee product.
So I really love that, because I'll tell you why. You're using different types of plants for sweetening agents, but they're not just there to sweeten the drink.
Right.
They're there because of their nutritional value and what they add to that specific formula.
Right.
Other companies, you just see a straight across the board xylitol sweetener used in all of their drinks, for instance, or some use stevia straight across the board, or some will just use, monk fruit.
Well, what they'll do, sorry to interrupt, Deb,
Yeah.
what they'll do is they'll perfect a combination and they'll really like it. Like a very popular combination might be stevia and erythritol. They perfect it and then they say, we're just using that in everything. But that doesn't take into account the unique formulas and what complements the formula. So for us, their nature is too bounteous in its options to just go, we're just going to run this through everything. That doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah, and I love that. And I know that recently, we've addressed this already, but I'll just bring it up because I know it's probably in the back of somebody's head. But with our Soul Vital, what you're using in here is the erythritol. And you have recently used an improved version of the erythritol
Well, it's coming. It's been in the lab. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, that's more powdered, not so large crystals.
Right.
Yes.
So it's more fine, and so see that your Soul Vital might look like there will be less in the packet, but there's not less of the active ingredient.
Oh, okay. That's another issue, Debbie. That's another issue, that the packets, what you're referring to. So two issues there. Okay.
I thought we'd already switched over to the erythritol in the Vital.
Yeah, no change. So far, there's been no change. And actually, this is still the same supplier. We really love this supplier of erythritol. They've just improved their powdering, so it's more consistent. You don't have large chunks and little chunks. But Debbie you bring up a good point. The packets, what has been changed, as you know, is all the new equipment. So some of the people, we have had a couple people say, hey, my Vital doesn't seem as full. But then when they really go out, if they've got one of those sensitive scales that measures in grams.
You can tell by how green it is.
No, it's not the green. They're saying the quantity in the packet. So they'll go out and they'll get on those scales and it weighs the same. So like, why does my packet look like it's not quite as full? It weighs the same. Yeah, because there's been no change at all in the amount. It's actually because the newer equipment, if you look at your Vital packets, this is really a good issue. And if anyone ever asks you this question, you'll know what to tell them. I'm looking for a packet here because Debbie was holding one. And it's easier for me if I can show you.
This is my newest batch. So I could tell that it was a little finer, but it never seemed to me like I had less. And I'll tell you why, because it actually looks even greener in the water. So the strength, if you are used to diluting it in X amount of water, and there were less powder in the packet, I would have known because my drink would have looked lighter, but it actually isn't. It even looks more verdant.
Yeah, well, what it is, it's actually the erythritol, the more powdered, is going to come later this year. So what you have, Debbie, is not changed.
Okay.
What's changed is the equipment. So if you look at your little packets on the back side, there's this little hip, this fold that comes vertical. I don't know if you can see that. That's how you seal the packets, because they're open, they're filled, and then they're sealed. So that little thing, there's a name for it. Blake can tell you the name. Then you have the top that's sealed a thick amount where the perforated area is. In the older equipment, the top perforation went further down by another, eighth of an inch.
Yeah.
And also this little vertical seal was twice as wide. Now the newer equipment's more efficient, and so it doesn't need as much film. So it has a narrower fold here, and it doesn't need to seal it down as long on the top either. What that does is it puts quite a bit more space in your bag. In other words, the film is still exactly the same dimension, but the internal space just improved by quite a bit. And that's why some people go, well, it just looks like that. It's because actually your packet, even though it's the same height still, the folds make it, if you put it alongside the old ones and the new ones, it's not quite so broad and it's folded more deeply. And so there's actually more space. Sorry, it's not folded as deeply on here. So there's more space. That's just the new equipment, more efficient equipment. So you have little things like that. And you'll probably see in the future, because of the manufacturing capability, we can do 4 of these at a time. Well, with a bag that's a little teeny bit taller than this, like an eighth of an inch, we actually could do 5 in a row. So some of those little efficiencies that help keep the cost down. They make it more, the whole process more reliable. You'll see little teeny things like that, but it'll look the same and nothing will change. Formula won't change. The amount of powder it'll all stay the same, but it might. That's why you get this little thing of where it looks more full or less full. Depends on how deep those folds are in the equipment.
Well, that's cool. Well, great.
That's a different topic, but interesting quality.
I love that. I love that. And I love what you presented to us on those sweetening agents. I hesitate to call them sweeteners. They're sweetening agents. They're in there for the nutritional value and can sweeten the taste. If you had opened a capsule of adaptable, which is everything that's in here except for the St. John's wort.
And also the minerals. That has minerals that's not an adaptable either.
Yeah. And
the chlorophylls.
Yeah, and you wouldn't enjoy the flavor of it if there was not a little bit of a sweetener in there. You wouldn't enjoy it as much as you do now.
You wouldn't even drink it.
No, you wouldn't.
Nobody would drink it.
So I really appreciate knowing that and where it comes from and how well sourced they are. So thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate that.
I want to share, Greg, that I did try an older pack. And you talk about, woo, but I drank it all.
Yeah.
But it was potent.
And you want to know what happens too? Because the flavor, so in Soul Vital, there is also what we call our berry fruity lime natural flavor to round it out too. Because it's natural, natural flavors will wear off over time. So if you get an old one that you misplaced, like 4 years old, 5 years, 6, 8 years old, all it is nothing's changed. It won't grow microbes because we've done testing in the lab, but that natural flavor that rounds it out will be 1/10 of what it was when it's fresh. And so you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's what it would taste like without it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very tart. I was like, but I drank it.
Yeah. Well,
It's awesome.
It did you good.
Well, Vital was one of the first products I tried that had to grow on me. And I think, some of that has changed over the years and it's become more pleasurable to drink it for me, which takes us to our last topic of the day is what products can you use with children and Soul? And I love that because Soul uses adaptogenic base in all of the products, there's not one product that doesn't contain adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogens have been used for millennia by India, in Ayurveda, and in China, traditional Chinese medicine. They are esteemed as the most precious herbs on the planet. And so, but they're also deemed safe for daily use, for prolonged use, for people of different ages. So with children, especially infants, I think some of the common problems that you see with infants is fever, fever related, a little bit of reflux, not being able to stomach formula. I don't try to tell moms what to do with their children We know that breast milk is the best for a child, but if the mother cannot lactate for whatever reason, or the child can't tolerate, then you have to try other formulas, right? And things that might work. And that causes a little bit of problems with the digestive system for children. So the one product that I do have time to talk about today, because we are over time, is the Solle ProBio IQ. And ProBio IQ is extremely easy to use with infants as well as with children who are over a year old, okay? So I will tell you that the easiest way to use it for an infant child, that is a child who is still being bottle fed or breastfed, right? A child who is under the age of 1. If they have fever or have digestive issues, what you want to do with the ProBio IQ is you will open a capsule, you will put it on the baby's belly button, okay? And then you can cover it with a little piece of gauze or a little cotton ball. You may even use like a little drop of the AC cream and just rub it and put it on the baby's belly button, cover it up, leave it overnight. It is fully absorbed overnight by the child into the digestive system, easing any kind of colic pain and any kind of resistance to new formulas. So that ProBio IQ is going to be a great addition for infant children, infant care, children who are younger than 1. As far as the drinks go, if you want to try some of the drinks with an infant child, I have several people in my group who use the Soul Vital, they use the Renew, and I've actually had one who's been giving to her 4-month-old the Soul Royal. Even though it has royal bee jelly, it's a 4-month-old child, they've been thriving on it. What you want to do with the drinks is actually mix it up first, dilute it in whatever amount of water, and then just give a little dropper full to the child a couple of times a day until they develop that taste for it. But all of those drinks are really safe to use. With the Cinnamate is got the honey powder in it. So if you follow the rule that we're taught, right? You don't give a child younger than a year old honey. But like I said, I have a client who's been using the Soul Royal with her 4-month-old and she loves it. And that has royal bee jelly. So you just might want to try a little bit at a time, dropper full, mix up the drink and give a little dropper full and see how the child tolerates it. And it should be fine. I love also the Soul Complete. Soul Complete is a great formula to use for older children. And we'll talk more about this in the future about children's health and what products are great. But I wanted to start off the discussion this week with the ProBio IQ. If you have any questions, email me, text me, and we'll touch on those for our next class. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Let's just in summary, remember, you can still register until the end of February for the summit at $79 for early bird registration. So that's $79. It will be $99. If you have been a 5K, you're welcome to come and bring a guest and go ahead and start registering. If you haven't been a 5K yet, like my good friend Gwen, I'm going to say, Gwen, go ahead and register. You'll be my guest. Okay. Sybil, same thing. Joanne, whoever wants to go. Okay. So Greg's not going to say, hey, don't come. You're not a 5K. We want everyone there. The summit's always going to be great. It's always going to be a great motivation and you'll learn a lot. I love you guys. Thanks for sharing. So congratulations again to Lisa, our new 15K. And thanks again, Sybil, for sharing your awesome story. We love you guys. Have a great week.